Hi, in this unit we're going to talk about South Asia. I thought this was a neat satellite image of some of the glaciers as part of the Himalayan mountains that form the boundary between South Asia and Central Asia. South Asia is classified as one region because of a shared history. The entire region was once controlled by the British, i.e. British India. It's split into Bangladesh, Pakistan. There were two different Pakistans at one time. It's also the meeting ground of two major world religions, Islam and Hinduism. It's a land of physical contrast. You can see your Himalayan mountains all the way down to southern India and the mouth of the Ganges. These are the crowded streets of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and the hills and mountains of Nepal. So there's mountains to the north, and like we said before, the Indian subcontinent literally collided with the Eurasian continent, and the result of that collision is the Himalayan mountains. So a lot of these peaks extend up to 25,000 feet. We've got the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal at about 4,000, and the Valley of Kashmir up in northwest India, China, Pakistan, where they all meet, at about 5,200 feet. So these are the two population clusters within those regions there. But like we've seen before with Central Asia, this is largely sparsely populated, especially when we look at this region here. It's probably second. It's second behind China and East Asia in terms of population. We've got India at about 1.3 million, Bangladesh, which is about the size of Wisconsin, well over 100 million people. Then we've got these tiny countries in here called Nepal and Bhutan kind of tucked in here. Then we got Pakistan to the far west. But these were all settled by Great Britain at one point in time. We've got Sri Lanka, and we've got this tiny Indian country here called Indian Ocean country called the Maldives, spread over a few hundred miles of the Indian Ocean. This talks about the lowlands. We've got the Indus River that empties out into Pakistan, the Ganges, considered the holiest river in the Hindu religion. It's home to one of the most densely populated regions in India. And when we look at the map, of it here, Google Maps right here, I zoom out, and then we can see it actually empties out into Bangladesh. So we have the Indus emptying out through Pakistan. Then we have the Ganges emptying out through Bangladesh. Okay, and you can actually see the mouth of the Ganges, how wide they extend. It's incredible. And within this region here, which floods a lot due to the monsoons, more than 100 million people live here. Okay? No states in the United States have a population of 100 million. The most is California, which is at about 40 million right now. Then we have the Brahmaputra, and it meets up with the Ganges in Bangladesh. We have the peninsula, the Deccan Plateau, and we have the eastern and western Ghats. And we have Ceylon. And now it's the country of Sri Lanka, but it was historically a large tea producer. And then the Maldives, which is this island chain off the coast. If we were to zoom out, so we've got Sri Lanka, not quite connected to India. And we have the Maldives, which are kind of spread out over a few hundred miles. And you can see how big these are. Okay? I thought this was kind of interesting. This is an actual country here. Literally looks like a city. And here's the airport. And if I were to zoom out a little bit more, you can see where these main areas are in reference to the rest of India here. I can right mouse click if I wanted to, click on measure distance, and it's about 400 miles off the coast. I thought this was, to me, this is absolutely amazing. This is a country in and of itself. Another island has the airport, so as you can imagine, beaches, but really interesting. So you can see the picture of that city island essentially, but I think there's a lot more these islands here which are used for vacation. Monsoon, dominant climate factor, has a warm season, cold season. I'll let you kind of look at these maps here. It's the world's second most populous region. It's approaching about 1 billion people. Pakistan, Bangladesh, well over 100 million people right now. Okay. India right now is about 1.3 billion or so, and the rate of increase has started to abate. So India's population increases by about 18 million a year. China's a little bit lower at about 12 million a year. So probably within the next 20 or 30 years, India will actually be the most populous country in the world if these patterns don't change. South Asia contains the largest number of under and malnourished people in the world, largely because we have got a lot of economic strife in Bangladesh and India. We can see total fertility rates. Okay. The average number of children born to one woman, and this is in 2016. So India 2.4, Pakistan 3.5. We can look at the people per square mile, so you can just see the densely populated regions here. We've got the Indus River Valley here, the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. This talks about agriculture, rice, livestock. Meat consumption in India and this region is fairly low because many Hindus, which is predominantly India, are vegetarians. So you might see pictures like this. We've got the Green Revolution. And then we can see the major religions. So like I mentioned before, we've got Islam in Pakistan, Bangladesh. At one point in time, Pakistan and Bangladesh used to be one unit called Pakistan. This was, essentially East Pakistan, and basically it wasn't feasible to have the same country. So we basically, not we, but they created a Bangladesh and a Pakistan. But we can see some of these interfaith boundaries up here in the north and along the Pakistan border. We have a religion called Sikhism, which takes elements of both Islam and Hinduism. So this talks about the history of Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, languages, and it kind of migrates from the Indo-European languages that were popular or more prevalent in Europe down to the Dravidian languages in the southern part of the subcontinent. And this talks about some of the language. This is Hindi. And then, like we said before, British India. Portuguese and Dutch have had their footprint in a couple of these places here, but for the most part it's been part of British India, where a lot of these countries didn't gain independence till the 20th century. And this is historically what it looked like. And then the British East India Company, and then the partition of South Asia. Pakistan became Bangladesh in 1971. We had Sri Lanka in 1972. Independence of India in 1947. And this is what it looks like these days. We've got ethnic conflicts in Kashmir, this region all the way up the north. Okay, so we've got China, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and all claiming parts of these. Some are parts of this land here. Tea was a big export in Sri Lanka. So the opening of the Suez Canal in Africa and Egypt cut tea prices. And then we have ethnic conflicts between the Sinhalese and the Tamils in Sri Lanka. And there was a war throughout a lot of the 80s and 90s for these two, culture groups, trying to claim, majority in Sri Lanka. And so you can see the Hindus and the Buddhists and these interfaith boundaries that we talk about here with Sri Lanka. One thing we've had in South Asia is diaspora, basically people leaving. And this whole idea of brain drain. I probably alluded to it before, but it's basically where talented, educated people are leaving for other regions. And this is really big in India. So migration of engineers, doctors, or whatever to other regions. So what's that going to do for the future of some of these countries? And then we can see where a lot of the main Indian communities are, and we can see that the 19th, 20th, and eventually the 21st century migration patterns of them. And that's about it for South Asia.